All right, as promised, I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly for you. We're talking about trench warfare in World War One. It is a very brutal and gruesome thing. If you recall from the video clip that we watched on Monday from that movie Paths of Glory, we saw a pretty realistic reconstruction of what the trenches looked like, although that was from the French perspective. This is a photograph of another Allied trench, and you see on the left-hand side there is the body of a dead soldier. There's also two more down in the middle of the trench, and then on the right-hand side there is a soldier who is seemingly taking cover from enemy fire. So a little bit about the trenches. Like I said, it's going to be really brief here. They were generally about 6 feet deep. Why? Well, that's to cover about the average height of a male at the time. And they were often in mazes. So if you saw them from high up in the sky, the bunkers or the trenches would appear to be in the shape of a maze. And the reason why is that it's more difficult for an enemy to navigate. So if an enemy came inside your trench, they wouldn't just be able to walk through and just start shooting everyone. They'd have to turn corners, and it'd be at least a little bit more complicated for them. Although to us here in 2014, it doesn't seem that smart. And here is a short little display of the mazes that I'm talking about in the trenches, and it explains the different aspects of the trench. I'm going to move on, but if you want to pause and look at this a little bit more, you're more than welcome to. So the first thing is conditions in the trenches, and this goes along with that first box on your Cornell note sheet. You have death on a daily basis. There is constant gun and artillery fire, which you recall from the video clip we watched on Monday. All we heard was machine gun fire and artillery fire. And there's that constant danger.
Jordan Mahmood, your transportation is waiting outside the gym.
I love interruptions after school. It's the greatest thing. Anyway, don't peer over the trench, because what's going to happen? Yeah, you're likely to get shot if you peer over by a stray bullet. And sadly, 1/3 of Allied deaths occurred in the trenches because of situations of peering over the trench, or just the fact that they were easy for an enemy to gain ground near a trench. All they have to do is throw a grenade down there or just spray bullets, and people are going to die. So it's almost like they set themselves up in traps. Also, there is shell fire. Germans used this heavily against the Allies. Recall, Germany was very well prepared for World War I. They had the industrial backing. This is more deadly than gunfire. Why? Well, look at the picture to the right. That's the size of an artillery shell. That's half the size of a person, if not more. So that can take out quite a bit of people. Next thing, rats. It's estimated that there were over 1 million rats in various trenches all throughout Europe during World War I. And what they did is they feasted on human remains. And we know a lot of people died in the trenches. Therefore, there were a lot of rats eating a lot of dead people. And what happens when rats eat more? They get bigger. And there were reports of some rats being as large as domestic house cats. It's pretty disgusting. And here we have a photo from World War I. It is French. It appears to be French, yes. And apparently these guys made a display of the rats they found, although I guess not all of these are so large. The ones on the bottom look to be larger and more disgusting, and I don't want to look at this anymore. Also, there was lice and trench fever. Lice cause never-ending itching, and there also there's a condition called trench fever, which is caused by lice, and it gives you surprise, surprise, a horrible fever and comes with severe pain. Now there's also trench foot, which is pretty gross. It is a fungal infection and is caused by standing in water for long periods of time. If you recall from the Pass of Glory clip once again, when the French were advancing, there were different puddles of water that people were collapsing into and they got shot. And, well, the explanation is very simple, is that what happens when you dig for a while, you're going to hit some water. That was the case here. This was far worse at the beginning of the war, because trench warfare was fairly new, but eventually the conditions did improve in regards to trench foot. And I have some visuals here that aren't pleasant. Yeah, it's kind of gross. And this next one is maybe a little worse. So, yep, that's gross. It's like peeling skin. Awesome. There's also poison gas. Once again, Germany was very well prepared for this war.
Staff, it's time for Tech Tuesday.
All
Smart
right.
War training will begin in the media center in 5 minutes. The ladies over there are anxiously awaiting you.
Okay, hopefully that was the last interruption. Like I said, Germany, very well prepared for World War I, not only in terms of their guns and artillery, but even on a biological aspect with poison gas. And this was used in some shell attacks, and what it did was it caused very violent choking spells. And you can see here some soldiers wearing gas masks. Sorry. This was about the first time that we started to see this type of warfare. There's also mustard gas, which causes painful blisters inside and outside of the body. Although the deaths from this are very rare, it's more of a short-term effect, although the scars last forever. But it would keep a soldier out of battle for a short while, but the scars would remain for life. And of course, there is the stench from the trenches. We know the cliche about how bad death smells. Well, chlorine gas from the gas attacks still lingered in many places, and that smelled horribly. Then there's also rotting bodies that were just lying around in their thousands. It's about disgusting. So about 200,000 men were killed on the battlefields, and a lot of these laid in shallow graves with water and rats and decaying flesh, and you get the idea. It's not a pleasant sight. And to close it out here, we have some more soldiers in trenches, although these trenches appear to be far deeper than 6 feet, maybe looking at 8 or 9 feet deep. You can see the look on their faces is just kind of expressionless. A few of them seem to be cracking a half smile or so, but you can definitely see some disillusionment with them. And then the last one, the ruins of what appeared to be a forested area in Europe. It just looks like a war zone because that's what it is. And you see everything, the whole landscape is just torn up. There's water everywhere. And this is what was seen around Europe on a very large scale. So you can imagine, in conjunction with the reading that we had from today, that a lot of these people really were justified in walking away from this wondering, what did we do and why did we do it? And those are some questions we're going to be answering, maybe, but certainly talking about more as we progress with World War I.